Hello and welcome to Unacademy. The Election Commission of India has been carrying out special intensive revision of electoral rules before the upcoming elections in Bihar. This has raised the political discourse in the country, which is already on a knife's edge. Now, is it something which is restricted only to the state of Bihar? Or is it something which will also impact the states like Tamil Nadu, as various different political leaders have alleged? Today, we are joined by one of the leading voices when it comes to polity and political sciences, that is Sarmad Mehraj sir, whereby we shall try to understand the very basics of what this revision is, and also a nuanced idea when it comes to the constitutional provisions, whether this is something which is justified or is Election Commission of India again being partial. So sir, starting with the first question, what is this SIR which is being carried out? And is it true that when we talk about the voters who have been eliminated from the Bihar's electoral list, they will be added to Tamil Nadu's voter population, and that will impact next year's Tamil Nadu election as well?
To understand all what is happening in Bihar, for that first we need a clarity. And please bear with me for a few minutes. Let me explain. If we have to certify whether a country is purely democratic or not, we just need to see the presence or absence of periodic, free and fair elections. Elections have to be conducted periodically, let's say every 5 years. You can't call a country a democratic country if the elections are conducted after, let's say, 10 years or 20 years or 50 years. Elections have to be conducted periodically. Elections have to be free as well, which means anybody who is eligible to contest elections should be allowed to contest elections. Anybody who is eligible to vote should be allowed to vote as well. Elections have to be periodic, elections have to be free, and elections have to be fair as well, which means if I have voted for A, my vote should indeed be registered in favor of A, it should not be counted in favor of B, which means if A has won the election, we should not declare B as the winner. So the presence or absence of periodic, free and fair elections will determine whether a country is purely democratic or not. And the sanctity of elections, free and fair elections, rests on the purity and the sanctity of electoral rolls, which simply means who is eligible to vote in this constituency? Someone whose name has appeared in the electoral rolls. Now for that, we have a constitutional body called the Election Commission of India, who has the responsibility of superintendence, direction, conduct and control of elections. And Constitution has given the power. Also, the law passed by the Parliament, Representation of the People Act 1950, has empowered the Election Commission of India to update these electoral rolls, purify these electoral rolls. Now, when does this normally happen, and what is the current controversy when it comes to Bihar? Normally, there is something called intensive electoral roll or intensive revision of electoral roll, which means that the electoral roll is to be published afresh. It is to be created afresh. And this happens when, let's say, delimitation exercise has taken place. After that, we need a thorough overhaul of the electoral roll. For that, we have intensive revision of electoral rolls. Second is summary revision. Electoral roll is already published, but we need to modify. For example, those who have been dead, these names should be excluded from the electoral rolls. Those who have just turned 18, because right to vote is available to all adults who cross the age of 18. These names are to be added. So that is summary electoral roll revision. Third one is a special intensive revision roll, which is happening in Bihar, which is a discretionary power available with the Election Commission of India. What's the difference? The difference is that in first type, intensive revision of electoral rolls, you go door to door. Enumerators go door to door and try and get hold of the documents and then update your names in the electoral rolls. In the second revision, which is the summary revision, that doesn't happen door to door. The list is published. You just have to say whether you have some objections to this list or not. Your name is to be included. Someone else's name is to be excluded. That is summary. But third is the discretionary power, which under the laws, Election Commission of India can ask for at any given point in time. This is where it becomes interesting. Normally, a revision of electoral rolls happens at 4 times. First, before Lok Sabha or Legislative Assembly election. Second, before any by-election. Third, at any given time asked by the Election Commission of India. And fourth is the special intensive revision, which happens in a constituency or any part of constituency, which means it cannot happen in the entire state. And for all other revisions, there is a qualifying date. And that qualifying date is 1st of January of that year. But this time, the Election Commission of India is saying we are conducting special intensive revision of electoral rolls. And for that, the qualifying date would be 1st of July 2025, which some constitutional experts say is not mandated by the law. But here, let me defend the Election Commission of India, because the Election Commission of India has plenary powers, unrestricted powers under Article 324. It can do anything so as to ensure free and fair elections. And to give you an analogy, what Supreme Court can do under Article 142 to give complete justice, that Election Commission of India can do under Article 324. But there also, you can only supplement the law. You can't supplant the law. I'll give you one example. In 1984, by-election was conducted in Kerala, in Paravurur constituency, and that election was conducted through EVMs. Matter went to the court struck it down. Supreme Court said this is null and void. Why? Because election can happen only through ballot papers, because that's what is mandated by the law. You can't supplant the laws passed by the parliament by creating or by ensuring the elections take place through electronic voting machines. And that's how then law was amended to explicitly provide for elections through electronic voting machines. So if the cutoff date or qualifying date is prescribed by the law as the 1st of January of that year, maybe Election Commission of India could not have conducted this special intensive revision by prescribing a different cutoff date, which is 1st of July 2025.
Okay, so just a brief summarization for all the aspirants and candidates out there. So till now we have seen different types of revision which are carried out in the electoral rolls, and also the powers of the Election Commission when it comes to whether they can do it or not. So let me ask you a very simple question out there. What you have said, what I can interpret from that is that it is perfectly within the powers of Election Commission under the Article 324 to carry out this special intensive revision of electoral rolls. There is a problem with regards to the cutoff date, whether it can be 1st of July, whether it can be the 1st of January. But what discourse that we are seeing on the ground? Now, we all know that Rajya Sabha has not been functioning owing to the opposition for this special intensive revision. You have the ex-Home Minister of the country, P. Chidambaram, saying that this will always end up vitiating next year's election, which is going to be held in Tamil Nadu. Now, how justified do you think are these voices, where you have certain voices such as Yogendra Yadav talking about that how this is just a start and this is something which is going to slowly and steadily cover the entire country? There is a question about citizenship also, which is being put at question. So we will come to the image of the Election Commission, whether it is neutral or not. But before that, how justified do you think is the opposition to this entire exercise?
To be very honest, who is entitled to vote in Indian elections? A citizen. Who is entitled to contest elections? Citizen. So is Election Commission of India wrong in asking for the proof of citizenship before which you can be admitted to the electoral roll? One argument is no, because after all, who is entitled to vote in the Indian elections? The citizen of India. If you exclude, what's the opposition saying? That you are disenfranchising eligible, legitimate citizens by excluding them from the electoral rolls. Just look at this for a moment. If excluding genuine citizens from the electoral rolls is problematic, including ineligible citizens or ineligible voters into this list is also problematic. And for that, this exercise is required. Because when does this normally happen? Look at opposition political parties. They challenged, for example, Trinamool Congress in Bengal, that same voter is registered at multiple places. Rahul Gandhi, as the leader of the opposition, also alleged some discrepancies when it comes to the Maharashtra Legislative Assembly election. So question marks were raised on the purity, sanctity of electoral rolls by the opposition. And this is precisely where Election Commission of India is mandated to carry out special intensive revision. Because this revision is conducted when there is a large-scale error. Okay. So this is Election Commission's acceptance that there are large-scale errors, and to rectify them, we need this exercise.
And also to add on to the fact that the last time such a detailed exercise was carried out in the state of Bihar was almost 22 years ago.
2003.
2003. So you can imagine that as an out-migrant state, many people would have moved out, many people would have died, many people would have come of age and crossed the age of 18 years. And also, one particular anecdote that I would like to add here is that for a state like Bihar, particularly when it comes to the northeastern part of Bihar, to the east of Kosi, when you consider the districts like Purnia, Farbisganj, etc., they have largely been embroiled in controversy regarding the illegal immigrants. And they are influencing the electoral outcome. Now, but whatever we are having a discussion about, we know that the sanctity of any electoral democracy is not only about the free and fair elections, but the elections have to be perceived to be fair as well. And when you have elimination of close to around 65 lakh voters, now is that fair or is that purely exclusionary? Where I would also like your insight on one particular aspect. The burden of proof, whether I am a citizen of this particular state or not. Earlier, it used to be on the onus of the state. Now it has shifted as a citizen's onus that I have to prove that I am a citizen of this particular state or not. Is that justified in your point of view?
I would like, for the sake of the audience, to just clarify one point. When you said that last time the revision took place in 2003, that may not be completely accurate as well, because the intensive revision happened in 2003. Summary revision happens every year.
Every year.
So that's an annual exercise that is conducted every year. So that's not the problem. What the problem is, how do you and when do you prove that you are the citizen of India? For that, we have an NRC exercise, which has not been carried out. So whether you are or you are not the citizen of India, that's not for the Election Commission of India to decide. That's for the state to decide when it comes to NRC. And there also, the burden of proof should be on the state. State should be in a position to tell you that you are not the citizen, and we are proving it that you are not the citizen. The burden of proof should never be on the individual. But what are the documents required through which you can say that you are an ordinarily resident of Bihar? Because just because you're a citizen of this country, that does not entitle you to vote in a particular constituency. You have to be an ordinarily resident of that constituency. To tell you a simple example, you are in Bengaluru. Maybe you are studying in a college and then you are put up in a hostel. You're residing in Bengaluru, but still you will vote in Bihar Legislative Assembly elections because that's where your emotional connection is. You're invested in that constituency. You have an emotional connect to that constituency. You should not be ideally voting in Karnataka because you have no stake in the politics of Karnataka. And when it comes to ordinarily resident, what is the proof? For that, the proof that some people are giving is the electoral photo identity card. Now, this is where the irony lies. Election Commission of India says that this is your proof that you are the voter. And now Election Commission of India is saying we will not accept this proof. Which means if there is a problem that you have wrongly given these EPICs to non-voters, that would put a question mark on the preceding elections which have been conducted. That means those elections were not free and fair, which means the ineligible voters voted in these elections. That puts a question mark on the entire sanctity of Election Commission of India, which means maybe Election Commission of India, and which now has been mandated by the Supreme Court, treat Aadhaar, treat electoral photo identity card also as a proof, and that is how you can be admitted to the electoral rolls. But for that, the point that you're mentioning, 65 lakh voters have been excluded. Does that mean we are going to declare that you are not citizens? It may be, as you correctly pointed out, Bihar is a state where we see migration happening from Bihar to other parts of the states, other parts of the country, which means some of these people would have permanently migrated to other states, such as Tamil Nadu. And if you are permanently migrated to Tamil Nadu, which means now you are an ordinarily resident of Tamil Nadu, which means in the next Legislative Assembly elections, even if you are from Bihar, but you can vote in Tamil Nadu. Nearly 100% of the civil services aspirants who have enrolled in Unacademy Platinum have reported better understanding and clarity of the topics as compared to traditional online classes. With an always-on camera policy, a small batch of 100 students, and a strict attendance policy, Unacademy Platinum is your one-stop destination to crack the IAS exam. Our batch 1 is now full, and we are super excited to announce the launch of batch 2. I invite you to experience Unacademy Platinum for free. Register for the free experience sessions now, and together, let's crack it.
But in a way, then, can we say that the allegations made by P. Chidambaram?
No, that is for the Election Commission of India to either accept or rebut. I'm not privy to, is there a link between the Bihar's special intensive revision and something that is happening in Tamil Nadu or maybe happening in Tamil Nadu? But one thing is clear, that Election Commission of India has said that we are going to significantly review and revise these electoral rolls throughout the country, and we'll first start with Bihar. The allegation that less time is available for the citizens to prove that they should be part of the electoral rolls in the run-up to elections, maybe the timing is not correct.
So my next question was supposed to be around this timing. So we have discussed, and what we have arrived at a conclusion till now is that it is within the power of Election Commission, and this needs to be carried out in order to understand who can vote and who cannot vote. So what is the ideal way to do it? Because when it comes to delimitation exercise again is mired in a lot of controversy. Ideally, should you carry it out immediately after delimitation? Is there something where it should be carried out pan-India at one point of time simultaneously? Now, what is the perfect timing? What is the timeline that the state, the citizens of the state should have? And one other aspect which is very problematic here is, there has been certain news stories that many of the voters have been put under the so-called D list, the doubtful voters. Now, the last time this was seen was in the case of Assam, NRC exercise in Assam. And we saw that the outcome was absolutely erroneous. So where does that put the citizens' faith in the entire system? Now, is that at risk? Election Commission's image is at risk?
So it's unfortunate that Election Commission of India is witnessing this mistrust or distrust in the minds of the citizens. Election Commission of India has played a stellar role in promoting, boosting democracy in India. Let's recall the first general elections. Pandit Nadu, twice on the floor of the parliament, said we are going to organize elections. But the then Chief Election Commissioner, Mr. Sukumar Sen, said, no, we'll wait. First, we will have to purify the electoral rolls. That's the credibility of Election Commission. It would not succumb to the pressures of the ruling political party. Look at the example of T.N. Seshan, who once in the interview said, I eat politicians for breakfast. He was the one who implemented and enforced model code of conduct in a non-partisan manner. Election Commission of India's job, let's say there is one exercise called sweep, where it wants to promote voting. There is one polling booth in a Gir forest in Gujarat for just one voter who is the priest of a temple. That's how the role of Election Commission of India has been to permeate democracy, to make it inclusive, to ensure that every single individual is eligible to vote, is eager to vote, and not just eager. There is no difficulty for him to find a nearest polling station and vote in the Indian elections. But the credibility of Election Commission has come under severe criticism over the past few years. And unfortunately, look at the irony. One exercise which could have lifted the credibility of Election Commission of India has further diminished the credibility. Because there were question marks, as I said, on the veracity, on the sanctity of electoral rolls, which could have been salvaged only by carrying out the special intensive. Now, this has been mired into more controversy. Whether that has got something to do with politics or otherwise, we don't know. But unfortunately, an exercise which could have salvaged the credibility of Election Commission has further put it under stress. That's why when somebody would ask me, can elections be rigged in India? EVMs can be tampered with, EVMs can be hacked. I would always tell them that you're barking at the wrong tree. EVMs cannot be hacked.
Yes.
So, but you can still manipulate the election. How? Through electoral rolls.
Managing the election.
Managing the elections. For example, when you cast vote on an EVM, how are these votes counted? In the counting station, you take EVMs polling booth by polling booth. So those who are the candidates or their agents, they get to know which particular area of my constituency is voting for me and not voting for me. So tomorrow you can manage these elections by making it difficult for the voters of that part of the constituency which is not voting for you to vote, making it difficult for them to reach the polling station, maybe stopping them. That's how elections can be rigged, not through EVMs. So opposition, instead of raising issues surrounding EVMs, maybe they should talk about some other ways in which elections
You have
can be
raised a
manipulated.
very important and an interesting point because you have said about the management of elections, and all of us know that on the ground level, there is, in certain cases, at least you can find examples of this kind of a management. Ironically, however, one of the demands of the opposition has been that publication of the electoral data at a constituency basis almost immediately after the election is cast. Now, won't that lead to much greater level of management if immediately all the data is published for the larger public?
Again, that is problematic on part of the opposition. You're talking about Form 17C.
Yes.
That is already shared by the Election Commission with the candidate
Agents.
or the agent of that candidate. So that is available.
Right.
But yes, should you put it out on the website? Sunlight is the best disinfectant.
Correct.
If there are question marks on your credibility, you can respond to that crisis by opening up your institution for scrutiny. And if you have nothing to hide, publish it on the website. What's the wrong? What's the problem?
Okay. So basically, Bihar is going for elections this year. Next year, we are going to observe elections, state elections in Tamil Nadu.
And various other states as well.
And West Bengal and so on. Now, what is the correct time if you do want to have a kind of...
It has always been done prior to the general elections, whether Lok Sabha or prior to the state legislative assembly elections. So that's the right timing. That's when it should be conducted. But whether it should be intensive revision, which means preparation of the electoral rolls afresh, or should it be special intensive? Because when you say special intensive, it gives a lot of discretion to the Election Commission. It can prescribe a different qualifying date. It can prescribe something else. It may ask you to prove your citizenship, which is not the mandate of the Election Commission of India.
And again, harping on the same point, about the cutoff date. If you could please summarize it in a shorter manner, that what will be the difference had the cutoff date been 1st of January to what the Election Commission has basically declared to be 1st of July? What difference does it make in terms of the common
You tell me,
voters?
you are from Bihar.
Yes.
You teach geography.
Right.
Your upcoming geography course in
Yes.
Unacademy Platinum is starting today. What is that time of the month when people from Bihar migrate to other areas of this country, particularly Punjab or UP, for harvesting
season?
What is that time?
So you have two seasons. One is the sowing season, and at that point of time, that is in the month of June. From May to July, you will find large-scale migrations, and again from the month
Which means in July you're not there.
you are not there.
So it should have been 1st of January.
Right. But then that also puts the Rabi season sowing in doubt. So Bihar in particular is a very interesting state, and similarly interesting is the state of West Bengal as well, because that is where I foresee a similar kind of a debate coming into the question. So should it be carried out even in these states? Because we have seen previously, particularly when it comes to states like...
There are no two ways about this. Just like as I said, including an ineligible voter is a mockery of the democracy, and so is the exclusion of an eligible voter. For that, we need an institution which has credibility. So I don't think the problem is with the special intensive revision. The problem may be the credibility of Election Commission, whether it is able to do it impartially or it is doing it at the orders given by the ruling political party at the center. That's where the problem is.
Okay, so now coming to the major question, addressing the elephant in the room. In your opinion, how unbiased or impartial is the Election Commission actually behaving? And is it true that in many of the cases, it is failing to stand up to the standards which were set up by, for example, T.N. Session or Sukumar Sen that you just mentioned?
Unfortunately, of late, we have seen Election Commission of India doing something and not doing something which has raised question marks over its credibility. I'll give you a few examples. One, the dates of elections announced. So sometimes what we have seen is that deliberately Election Commission of India has delayed the announcement of dates which will kick in the model code of conduct to allow the Prime Minister to campaign. Right. Number one. Number two, the number of phases in an election. There were allegations that the phases of elections announced were coinciding with the election plan of the BJP in carrying out the election propaganda. Model code of conduct violations. For example, if there was an allegation that Mr. Modi violated model code of conduct or Rahul Gandhi violated model code of conduct. Ideally, you should have sent them notice. But we saw something remarkable, unprecedented. Notice was sent for MCC violation, not to these leaders, but to the leaders of their political parties. So Mr. JP Nada, Mr. Mallikarjun Kharge was sent this notice. Why? So the way in which you enforce model code of conduct, the way in which there is lack of clarity on Form 17C, or there is lack of clarity on so many other aspects of electioneering, star campaigners, they are violating model code of conduct and no action is taken against them. So it is in these ways that we can see that Election Commission of India's credibility is at stake. And how do they salvage the situation? That's up to them.
So in a way,
and it can also deal with, that's what Supreme Court said in Anup Baranwal case 2023, that the appointment of the election commissioners and the chief election commissioner is arbitrary, because the political executive has the ultimate power. And for that, Supreme Court had said that there should be a committee consisting of a Prime Minister, Leader of Opposition, and the Chief Justice of India. Together, they will sit and recommend names to the President for CEC and ECs. Unfortunately, Parliament changed it and said now instead of Chief Justice of India, it will be a Union Minister nominated by the Prime Minister, which again means that the composition of this committee is skewed in favor of the ruling political party at the center. And people appointed by the ruling political party, will they be in a position to ensure free and fair elections? So you can consider Election Commission of India as an umpire, and the umpire has to be neutral. And to ensure neutrality of the Election Commission of India, for that we need reforms, but I think that is not the scope of this discussion. Maybe we can have an elaborate discussion later.
So in a way, would it be correct to conclude that SIR per se is not that controversial, but maybe owing to all these lists that we have talked about why Election Commission is not seen to be impartial, that has added and fueled the controversy around this intensive revision of electoral rolls. Now, how will the outcome of, for example, let's suppose the election gets held in the later part of this year, and the outcome of it, do you think in such a fractured discourse that we are seeing right now, where opposition parties are talking about boycott, there have been calls of Andolan on the ground in all the parts of the country, you have chief ministers of Tamil Nadu talking about it. Now, how do you think that the results of whatever the result is going to be in the state elections, will that be acceptable to the political parties in this case?
Election Commission of India should carry out an all-party meeting, invite suggestions from political parties, demonstrate to them that this is a fair exercise. We are not doing this at the behest of a ruling political party, assuage the grievances of various political parties. And political parties in the opposition, they should also behave responsibly and maturely. Because if you point fingers at this exercise, you're sowing the seeds of distrust and mistrust amongst the minds of the public as well. And people may well lose the trust they have in the electoral system, which is not good for democracy. So my fear is that we might enter into a domain of anarchy if Election Commission of India does not arrest this as soon as possible.
So I hope that in this discussion, if you have followed it, just a quick recap of it. We started with the basics of SIR, how it should be carried out, what is the constitutional provision, that is Article 324, and whether Election Commission of India is indeed acting impartially, or whether the allegations leveled against the Election Commission, do they hold some amount of veracity to it. We have also talked about what should be the way forward and how it can impact the state elections, like the election in Tamil Nadu, the election in West Bengal, and so on. I hope that this session has been comprehensive and you have added some amount of information to your existing knowledge set. If you have liked this session, put that in the comment section below, and don't forget to click on the like, share, and subscribe the channel if you have not subscribed already. Thank you for being a part of this discussion. What do you think should be the way forward? Let us know in the comments. Till we meet again, take care, goodbye. Thank you.